it looks like Good and Cheap C60 has dropped their price to $19 a bottle, delivered with free shipping. And that's $19 for 100 milliliters of olive oil with 80 milligrams of Carbon C60. And I've been giving it to GoldDigger the Cat. She's been getting that every day. Other things you can do that are cheaper, even than that might provide you with some benefits. Because I think the way Carbon C60 works is that it's an anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and actually oxidative stress is one of the problems that the body is always combating. So once you eliminate the inflammation and the oxidative stress, your body's going to do whatever it needs to do naturally, right? You can also take activated charcoal, and this is something you want to rotate because it's a little bit stronger, a little bit harsher than Carbon C60, actually maybe quite a bit, but it's not really harsh. If you did that a couple days a week, you took a good amount of that, it wouldn't be a problem. If you do it every day, you wouldn't want to continue it on ad infinitum, because eventually it could take out some of the minerals that you need in your body that are essential. So sometimes, actually with Carbon C60, with activated charcoal, I'm pretty sure that where it takes out minerals, it's taking out things that are man-made, not natural, and also synthetic vitamins, because they're pharmaceutically made. That's where this could be a little bit of a problem. Now, in the case of taking Carbon C60, you're not going to run into that type of problem. And, a lot of people have reported, tremendous energy benefits with Carbon C60. I really tell you the truth, I've noticed the most energy benefits from activated charcoal, but that's me. I'm not going to tell you that I noticed more energy benefits from Carbon C60. The Good and Cheap brand is just as good as any of the other ones out there. It's properly made. It's made with olive oil. I don't think there's a problem making with Carbon C60 with other types of oil like sunflower oil, avocado oil, or coconut oil. I don't think there's any problem with it. And by the way, GoldDigger the Cat likes staying up here on a bed by this. Usually this is covered up. That's actually a shungite pyramid that has some minor amounts of Carbon C60 in it. I don't know what the heck it is, but she seems to like, she used to never sleep on the end of the bed. She used to go, I don't know, under the cabinet in the kitchen, under the table in the kitchen, and when I put this over here, she goes on this part of the bed right here. So, I don't know, it's an animal testimony maybe, a cat testimony, but sometimes they got more senses than people do, and more fine-tuned instruments with their little whiskers than the most scientifically sensitive instruments out there. So, I don't know, maybe she's, I always regard my cats as my scientific assistants, because cats use frequencies to heal with, believe it or not. That purring that they do, that's not just for contentment, but it's also for, it has biological function where it can heal. She's actually, all her fur is growing back in really good after I gave her the Good and Cheap olive oil, Carbon C60. The antibiotic that the vet gave her, because she had all this problem with all the fur falling out, didn't do a damn thing. After a couple months, no result. I started giving her a Good Cheap Carbon C60. All her fur came back in. It was like there was fur missing back here. This was red back here. This fur was missing underneath her neck. There was all like dots all over here. She's fine. So that's what convinced me to take more of it. And also my other cat, Boots, I call him Boots the Rebel Confederate Cat. He got clobbered by a raccoon. I thought he was a goner. Actually, I used two things on him, Carbon C60, and I used one of his blood samples in the Spooky 2 remote frequency holder for the DNA holder, and he healed up like a miracle. It was inside of a few weeks I was seeing light gray fur coming in where his bad injuries were. I was like, I couldn't believe how he healed up. It's like a miracle. So, a number of these things, it could be that, everything's interrelated. It's not just the chemical process or whatever, like this is not really a chemical, it's inert, it's just carbon, but it's got that structure of the 60 carbon atoms in, you know, the buckyball, spherical ball. But it's not just that, there's so many things that are interrelated. It's like energies and frequencies. As a matter of fact, I use this plasma bulb a lot of times for my spooky 2 Rife machine. Sometimes I'll run the cancer frequencies every once in a while. And I tell you the truth, I think they honestly do work. I run the ParaZapper all the time. As a matter of fact, I got a few of them right here. Well, here's a couple of them right here. And I think, you know, these benefits of these various devices are, oh, I was painting outside, see. These various devices actually, they do different things in different ways. I mean, I don't think one thing does everything. Like, I don't think good and cheap Carbon C60 is going to work on every damn issue there is, but it does seem to work on a large host of issues. As I found, you know, the ParaZapper does. This seems to detox the body so much that one of the problems we have is with toxins. I think this is a faster detox than Carbon C60, activated charcoal. But it's not something you really want to take every day. Another thing you could take is shellactic extract, which has some Carbon C60 in it. That's been taken for many centuries, actually by some of the Tibetan monks, and that's part of the reason they lived for so long. There's biological enhancements that are going on with these various things. I think you can be biologically enhanced just with frequencies. Often I use the ParaZapper My Plus 2, which is similar to this, is the My Plus, with the 10,000 frequency. I use that quite often because it's one of the most powerful frequencies listed in a consolidated annotated frequency list on, you know, what they consider quote unquote Rife frequencies, not original Rife frequency. Now this plasma bulb actually runs true Rife. You know, it's hooked up to a spooky central that's right over there. You could see the unit. Well, that's the main unit anyway. But all these various things work in different ways. I personally think that people might be able to live double their life or more without actually being, like, in other words, if you're 80 years old, you know, if you started doing this stuff right from zero, you'd probably be like 40. You know, when they did the rat study, when they were trying to toxify the rats, they didn't actually do it right from birth of the rats. They tried it, you know, when they're more like adult rats, and they only gave them this Carbon C60 for so long. Actually, it was massive amounts for their body weight. But, you know, they lived 93% longer on average. Now, I don't know exactly why it is, because the rats don't have telomeres. I think the one limiting factor we have in our bodies is the telomeres on the end of our chromosomes, that as they erode, the DNA information can get compromised in the chromosomes, and that's where, you know, the aging stops, where max is about 120 years old. But obviously there's methods around that, because even some of the herbs out there like astragalus root has been known to help lengthen the telomeres where they're critically short, which is another thing to really consider, because you don't really care about lengthening telomeres where they're in fine shape, but where they're critically short. Does Carbon C60 and olive oil lengthen telomeres? You know, it might indirectly, by just reducing oxidative stress, or prevent, you know, telomeres from becoming shorter faster. Just by reducing oxidative stress, it might help that the telomeres last in a state where they're long enough to preserve the DNA information on the chromosomes. If the telomeres don't get to critically short lengths on the ends of the chromosomes, you're going to live at least double. As a matter of fact, if you can lengthen the telomeres on your chromosomes, you're going to visibly look younger and feel younger and be younger. This might actually be what's going on with this. It might be. I have not seen, you see, I don't have any scientific instruments to measure that, but it might be what is going on. I really do know though that, you know, as far as oxidative stress and inflammation, it definitely, those two things are greatly reduced when you're taking the Carbon C60 and olive oil. And the Good and Cheap brand is just as good. It's only $19 now delivered, so they actually reduced the price. And this is for a properly made 100 milliliter bottle of olive oil with containing 80 milligrams of Carbon C60. So, you know, I've been taking probably about a liter of this stuff every month. It's difficult to state exactly what it's doing, but it could be one of these things where the results are going to show up, you know, many years from now. It's sort of like, you know, a lot of times you look at people in their 20s. You might take the same person, maybe they're very closely related or cousins or identical twins, and, you know, one of them is a party animal and drinks and smokes and does all this crazy stuff and stays out late at night and doesn't eat well, and the other one's a health nut and, you know, does, maybe works out a few times a week and gets out there in the sun and exercises. You're probably not going to notice a big difference in them until they start hitting in their 30s. Or if you want to take a radical difference, look at somebody who's a drug addict, and you know, that really deprives your body of nutrients like meth people and stuff. That really sucks the vitamin C right the hell out of you. And it causes a lots of oxidative stress. Look how fast somebody like who's a drug addict would age. So, I mean, you might not see the difference until some years down the road. And the fact that most people, even though this has been known for many years, if you look, you can look back, and I think it's New York Times articles back from the 1980s even, they knew about this stuff. They knew about its potential to treat disease, viruses, and all this type of stuff. And they really were mum on it. What really brought it to the forefront was when they did the rat study, when they tried to toxify the rats, of course, and then they found out, oh, they live 93% longer, and Cliff High put out, you know, this story, and it just took off like wildfire, because, you know, we had enough media audience to, you know, put out the, you know, where people saw the information. Now, not necessarily I'm a fan of Cliff High because he gets in some really wacky stuff, but I'm more like, I'm from Missouri. Show me, right? That type of deal. I like to see the demonstration. But what convinced me was the two cats. The one cat, you know, Boots, the Confederate cat. I always call him Max. He's always out there in the wild. He's a nice cat, though. He's really friendly. He got clobbered by a raccoon. He healed up very, very quickly. I thought he was the goner. And I was giving him this stuff and using the Spooky 2 remote on him. I couldn't run the ParaZapper because I got no way to put the contact mode on it, my little kitty cat. But I've been giving her. She was a serious mess when she came and found me in October 5th or 7th, around that early October of 2017. She was a serious mess. And I didn't start giving her this stuff till late December of 2017. And she just turned around. Her fur, she was missing fur down under her chin. This is all dots all around here. There's red spots down here. Fur was missing down here. I don't think she's still 100%. And I've got some cat vitamins coming from her besides the additional great cat food I give her. And she might be back to 100% because she's getting a little more lively. But I noticed she likes hanging around this thing, which is kind of weird because I didn't tell her to do that. And I don't know why she goes to this specific portion of the bed. She decided, you know. Just one little guy, Putin, coming in here. Hey, Putin. Anyway. But she likes hanging around this little jobber. And that's got, that shungite pyramid has some of the Carbon C60, and it's supposed to actually put out some kind of energies. Now, that's another theory that I don't want to go down the trail with because it gets a little strange. Because it could be that the Carbon C60 is actually some kind of conduit for energy. I don't know. I mean, it could be helping the mitochondria of the cells bring in energy back and forth. I don't really know what the hell it's doing. I do know the one part that it's working on is anti-inflammation and antioxidant properties. So that's very good. That in itself is very good, but it might be doing more than that. I don't think it's just a powerful antioxidant. I think it's more than that. And this Good and Cheap brand is just as good, as far as I'm concerned, is just as good as any other brands out there that are very expensive. And the fact that they dropped their price is telling me I think they're an honest and noble company, because they're out there, they're out there to make some kind of money, but they're not out there to gouge the public, So, and, if you can't afford this, I would try getting a couple bottles of this. Puritan Pride is a pretty good source of them. You could buy bulk, but if you don't want to try too much, they're not much money. These are a few bucks each. Try several grams of this for a couple days, then try it again for a couple days and a week later, and see if you feel a lot more energy. If you feel a lot more energy from this stuff, you're probably going to benefit from this stuff too. This shellac extract, I actually have some in a powder form also, besides the pill form. It's a fairly expensive supplement, but still. But I think a lot of these things are interrelated. Like when you're talking about taking something physically, there is like an energetic chemical reaction that's going on too. Besides, either it's allowing the body to do its normal chemical reactions by removing inflammation and oxidative stress, or it's actually causing a chemical reaction. In the case of things with charcoal, it's actually just not causing a chemical reaction. It's just allowing the body to do its thing, because it's removing those blockages from oxidative stress and inflammation that are causing your body not to heal. Now, the same thing I think could be said of the ParaZapper. The reason I like this ParaZapper a lot is because once you buy it, you just get there's actually connections that go into your wires and paddles. But once you buy it, I use a couple of rechargeable batteries and a little battery charger I just plug into the wall in the bathroom, and I swap out the battery, and I don't buy nothing. So like this, I got to keep replenishing it. This, I don't know, I'm not saying they're the same thing, but I think there's more benefits to this besides antimicrobial, because, Hulda Clark said that it helps boost the immune system, it helps turn the immune system into super immune cells temporarily while this is being run with the positive offset. But I think there's never one thing that's a be-all, end-all of anything, because I think the limitation on this is that it can't reach all areas of the body. It can reach a lot of areas of the body, most areas of the body, but it can't reach areas of the body. Well, it's not going to penetrate the blood-brain barrier, I don't think. You'd have to, you could treat the blood, and the blood penetrates the blood-brain barrier, but, something like this would go past the blood-brain barrier. So if there's some kind of problem, a lot of people have said that when they take Carbon C60, whether it's carbon in a form of Carbon C60 or activated charcoal, that type of carbon, a lot of times a lot of people say they feel a clearing of the mind. Now, is that oxidative stress that's throughout the body, or is that also oxidative stress that's within, where the brain is too? But the thing is, I always liked about carbon is that it's inert. It's not a chemical. It's not a reactive chemical. It's not like, it's not something that's causing a chemical reaction. It's just taking out the bad stuff. This actually will take out the bad stuff more aggressively than this. But this doesn't reach, it gets in the blood. It actually does get in the blood. But it doesn't, this seems to work more powerfully where it gets into the cells themselves. And that's why it's put inside an olive oil base. It's the delivery mechanism which actually helping it work. But like I said, what convinced me was not the testimonies. I wasn't convinced by Cliff High's presentation. Not at all. That did not convince me at all. Like, I'm not trying to diss the guy or nothing like that. I'm glad he brought this stuff out, because I would have never known about it if he didn't put that stuff out. But he didn't convince me, because I'm not really onto a lot of his things he puts out, because I think they're a little too far out there. What started to convince me was what I heard about the testimonies from people. Then they start telling testimonies about their animals. Like a dog wasn't able to jump on top of the bed, was getting older, was having problems, and they gave it Carbon C60, and then it was able to go boom. It's like a young dog again. I was thinking either these people are making up crap, but maybe they aren't, because, well, at least I know if that's a fact that the dog didn't know what the hell they were given. Sometimes you could be given something, if you believe it's going to work, then you're going to say, oh, I feel better because I believe I feel better. A cat doesn't know what the hell's going on. I mean, you give it some stuff in its food, and if they get better or they feel better, like in her case, her fur just came back like a miracle. Like under her chin was all gone. That was all gone under her chin. She had a lot of problems, and I don't think she's 100% yet, but, she's come a long way. And that's, when I start seeing those results like that, I says, that's probably what the heck is started working. It was just, she got better when I started giving her this stuff. So what's going on? Is that proof? I don't know. I mean, it's one example, okay? But then when I dovetailed that in with what other people were saying, I said, well, I came up with the same deal. But honestly, I don't notice any major difference when I take Carbon C60 in olive oil. But then again, I've already been taking over 20,000 milligrams of vitamin C in divided up doses per day. I take an extra dose of, instead of taking 3 Nature's Way whole food alive natural vitamins, I take 4 of them. Sometimes I'll take mega doses of vitamin D with K2 and magnesium. I'll take extra zinc. There's loads of different things I've been taking, and that, I probably don't have oxidative stress in me in the first place where I'm going to notice something big. Like when I give this Carbon C60 to one of my cats that's already healthy and jumping around and, flying around when he's having fun and playing around, I don't notice a difference because they already are healthy. But it could be actually extending their life. Like I said, you're not going to notice this stuff maybe in some cases until much later. It's like when you have a problem, it seems like you notice it a lot more. So that's my take on it. I'm just putting out some common sense things because, it's not like, how the hell are you going to notice without researching for umpteen years? And the medical establishment is not going to put this out unless the only way they will use this Carbon C60 is in conjunction with pharmaceutical drugs that could be patented as a delivery mechanism for pharmaceutical drugs. Now, that may not be a bad idea in some cases because there is a use for pharmaceutical drugs. I'm not a pharma guy here, but I'm telling you, there's cases where you do need pharmaceutical drugs, at least temporarily. And in most cases, for general health, you really want to avoid pharmaceutical drugs because once you get on that train, you're never going to get off it, and you're going to have a problem, and it's going to lead to other side effects and other problems. And also, I want to mention this. If you're taking any pharmaceutical drugs, make sure you do not take the activated charcoal or the Carbon C60 within 2 or 3 hours of the time that you took the pharmaceutical drugs. They say keep it at least 2 hours apart. I'd say 4. Because these things are such powerful detox agents that if you took this activated charcoal, this is so powerful, a detoxifier, that if you took that with the pharmaceutical drugs that you took it at the same time, and you took a few grams of this stuff, it'd be like you didn't even take any pharmaceutical drugs. That's how powerful it is, because all pharmaceutical drugs have toxicity. As a matter of fact, they all contain fluoride, even, for crying out loud. And but it's not like they're all bad, because sometimes if you really need something, you really need it, at least till you can fix it nutritionally and get off the pharmaceutical drugs. They're not all bad, okay? But the other side of it is, too, that, activated charcoal was actually used in a Chernobyl nuclear reaction against radiation, and also used in a Fukushima radiation accident with the workers that are working on the site. activated charcoal along with vitamin C. But again, you don't want to take the vitamin C at the same exact time you're taking the activated charcoal. Even vitamins or any supplements, you want to try to avoid taking supplements even at the same time you're taking the activated charcoal or the Carbon C60. You want to keep it a few hours apart. That's, and so a lot of people won't do this because it requires some type of effort, some type of thinking. And, even when I was working, 60, 70 hours a week, and I used to find enough time to go to the gym for 3 hours a day back in that time, but I wasn't like working on cars and doing all the crazy other stuff I'm doing today right now. But I did find time to go to the gym 3 hours a day and also take the supplements, because I'd be taking them driving to work, taking them during lunchtime, taking them while I was working out. I had all that time splitting up the dosages, and also driving back from work. So if you really are disciplined, you can do the stuff. You can do it, but most people are not. That's the problem. Most people are too lazy to even take a simple whole food vitamin pill, just one pill a day. And a lot of people maybe say the excuse, well, I just need a balanced diet. Well, to tell you the truth, most of our food, even the non-genetically modified foods, is very lacking in a lot of things. And pretty much everything we bought today out of the supermarket has, dyes in it, or preservatives, or even like foods that are not genetically modified, but are plants that are grown. They have herbicides. Like, sure, you could take an ozonator and put your vegetables in an ozonator and run that for a while and get rid of the herbicides and make all the herbicides and pesticides inert. Most people won't do that. It's one method to making sure that your body isn't subjected to things that cause oxidative stress. But you've probably been subjected to oxidative stress for many, 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 many years. Even being in contact with plastics, or drinking out of plastics, or even just being in contact with vinyl, for crying out loud, the vinyl seats in your car. The amount of benzene is emitted from your car on a hot day when you close the doors and you have the windows rolled up, or up, and the heat in the car just melts off that benzene that's in the vinyl, and you go in there in that car and you breathe in that benzene. A lot of people won't tell you that, but that's where you're getting toxicity from just modern elements. Back in the day when everything was made out of cotton and hemp fibers and leather, you didn't have that type of problem. So there's a lot of things that are actually contributing to the toxicity in our body, which leads to inflammation and oxidative stress. So you really can't go wrong with, taking some of the charcoal, or even some of the activated charcoal. If this works for you, then I would suggest going to this, and I would suggest going with the Good and Cheap brand. I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. I think it's just as good as the more expensive brands. I mean, you're not going to beat the price. $19. I mean, it dropped the price. That's telling me they're an honorable company. Now, I'm not a spokesman for them, okay? I've actually stopped doing a lot of Spooky 2 videos, which I did before. People started accusing me of being a spokesman for them. So I said, okay, I'm not going to tell you nothing anymore. Whatever I got out there, I'm out there. Whatever I put out there is my honest, humble opinion. I don't accept any PayPal donations or what is that other thing? Patreon. I don't do any of that stuff. It's strictly off of YouTube. And I am not somebody that's going to compromise the truth by being endorsed by somebody or anything like that. I'm not endorsed by anything. Any product I put out here is my honest opinion. And the thing is, where I'm limited is like I'm one person. But I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm fairly intelligent. And what I think where my main strength is, besides being fairly intelligent, is I think I have a load of common sense. And sometimes that goes in a lot more as a factor in finding the truth than just raw intelligence. Sometimes you just want to have that, you want to be able to sit back and say, hey, is this really working or not? I can tell you right now, this ParaZapper thing, but it doesn't work for everything, but it works for a lot of stuff, man. This thing I consider like my survival tool right here, because at one point in time, just something crazy happens, we might not be able to get good and cheap Carbon C60. We'll be able to make charcoal though, maybe not activated charcoal, but that thing will be running. So, and again, the thing that really convinced me the most was, how do I know really for sure where me personally, I'm really convinced. It's not even from me taking this stuff, because I didn't really notice that much, because I already take a lot of vitamins and antioxidants. So I didn't really notice much when I took good and cheap Carbon C60. I noticed quite a bit when I took activated charcoal, but that's very powerful for detoxification. But I noticed a big difference on Miss GoldDigger the Cat. She healed up like a miracle. And I noticed it on the other cat too. And I've seen the testimonies on dogs and cats, and I said, let's see what happens. I said, holy smokes, this was a miracle, because nothing seemed to be working on her. She was a mess when she found me back in early October of 2017, and she's not 100% perfect. So I don't think her energy levels are up there where they should be, but she is actually getting a little more alert and chipper, and her fur is all grown back in really good. So, and she seems to be getting along with my boys a little bit better. Not perfect, but her attitude has greatly improved. So she's a good little girl, and I think I attribute that because of how she's feeling. She's starting to feel better, right? She's a good meow meow. Anyway, over and out.